Okay, so this is to connect a USB standard keyboard to the Agon Light 2, which is PS2 protocol. So here's your Pi Pico with the USB facing this way. On the actual code I'm going to be using, which I'll put a link to, he just plugs in a dongle, an OTG cable into there, and then he plugs his keyboard into that. Because I've built mine, it looks like a mass of wires, but I've actually built it so I can disconnect the keyboard and such like. So I've just put an a USB A port off the Pi, off the Pico, and then I've put a Type C so that I can use another cable to plug it into my organ. But in theory, you could chop the end off one of these leads, or any lead that's got a Type A on it. Sorry, the lighting's rubbish. A Type A on it, and then just wire. It's normally green and white for the data. You could just wire them straight in. Now, I've also incorporated, because I've been playing about with a mouse and everything. Let's see if I can get the lighting a bit better on this. There you go. I've incorporated a level shifter, but that's not needed really, because this is outputting 3.3 on the GPI opens, and the Agon is 3.3, but we are going to be feeding this with 5 volts because we're going to be using this cable, which you're either going to cut if you haven't got a little USB-C or whatever, and then just solder them direct onto the board. You don't really need this. So if you just go off these pins, if you're only doing a keyboard for instance, go off these 2 pins, 11 and 12, chop the end off of the cable or whatever, and wire the green and the white onto the 11 and the 12 of your Pico, and then plug in an OTG adapter or whatever, and then you can just plug your mouse into that, your keyboard into that, sorry. This is obviously designed for mouse and keyboard, the software that somebody else has put together. It works great for the keyboard, not had any issues. Every keystroke it gets works absolutely flawless. Not so good on the mouse, he hasn't quite got that sorted yet, so I'm just using it. He does do one version that's keyboard only, but I use the ×2, I think it is, which is the mouse and the keyboard, but just don't use the mouse at the minute. So let me show you the board. Ignore the purple and the white because that's the mouse, and they connect onto the GPIO pins of the Agon. So just ignore them completely. You can ignore this because these links here are just powering everything. So I've got 5 volt coming in from the Agon through my USB-C, and that's feeding it onto these pins here. There's the 5 volt and the ground. So that pin just in between, don't obviously accidentally connect onto that. It's the last pin, which is 5 volt, and the third pin in from the USB port on that side, which is the ground. You only need, in theory, you only need those 2, and then these 2 keyboards here, and that's it. But obviously you are going to have from your Agon, because the only, it depends actually, if you're using the I'm talking about the is it Olimex, Olimex, sorry, the Olimex version. So what you want to do is take, though it's a bit confusing how I've wired it, so I can't really show it because, you know, that just is a mess, but it's just so that I can plug in USB cables. That's all I've done, is I've wired an A port and a Type C port, And then I've put this level shifter on because I was playing about with the 5 volts with a mouse and all sorts of stuff. So if you're not doing mouse, leave that off. And then it literally is, if you've just got your Pi Pico, just go on these with your green and your white. Now, if I just quickly bring up I think I've got it saved here. If I bring up the guy's website, which is the link that I've already posted in Discord, but it's there if you need it. It's a great little project, and it's the only one I've found that uses the Pico. Most other things use the ESP32 and such like, and their own boards, but he just hasn't got the mouse going. So obviously he plugs in his mouse and keyboard into a what do you call them, hub, but I've tried that, still didn't work. And then on this picture here, he's actually just cut the ends off some and wired them in. So obviously you're going to probably do that with a USB cable and forget the level shifter, and then you just plug your keyboard into there. It does work with an RF dongle keyboard as well. That works absolutely fine. If you do want to wire either a port in, or if you haven't got a OTG dongle or whatever, what you can do is get to those pads on the back of the Pico. There's TP2 and TP3. Excuse my soldering skills, but you can connect onto those and pretty much do the same again. Butcher a cable and just wire onto those there. I think that's it really. It's really straightforward. The thing I found pretty hard was actually getting... So yeah, here's his wiring diagram. You've got... It's orientated... Yeah, that way in my drawings. So the USB is up here, and there's your Pico, and this is where I've got my level shifter connected to, and here's where I've got my outputs connected to. But basically you're just going to wire onto the Pico here, and it's GPIO 11 and 12. So yeah, if you stick with those, I'm pretty sure, where did I do it? Download it. You can just download this file. Don't have to do anything, no building it or anything. It's got a little note on there, look. So keyboard data and clock. You might have to just play about your green and your white out your USB cable and just swap them over. So I'm not sure if data's green, or I think they different manufacturers of cables swap them two around anyway. But yeah, if you just get that, plug your Pi in whilst holding the flash button, and then drop that onto the root of the Pi, and then just unplug it and plug it in. It works out the box, and like I say, the keyboard's bulletproof, the mouse is flaky. If you did want to just do it onto ports, if you have got any ports like a Type A or whatever, obviously I'm just getting all my feeds live, my positive and negative off those two pads there, which are these, and I'm going up to my USB positive negative, this USB positive negative, and I'm also doing the high voltage side of my level shifter off that same feeds. And then it's just a matter of keyboard off, it's really dark, sorry, keyboard off this 2 pins, mouse off those 2 pins. But obviously I'm taking mine off the high voltage of the level shifter. And then the same again, if you wanted to, instead of having your OTG dongle, I'm just taking my 5 volts again here, if you need your keyboard powering for instance, 5 volts from here again, and then to access those pins of the micro USB port on the Pico that your OTG cable would plug into are exposed on the back. Like I say, it's TP2 and TP3 on the back to connect that. Hope that helps.